Okay, so today we're going to kind of go over a few things. We've talked about using a title block, our sizing. We've talked about scale and everything else. We're going to go ahead and today we're going to go ahead and draw a title block or a border. Okay, I'm just going to use the P-line command, and I'm going to start that off at 0, 0. And then I'm going to draw that over at 36 inches at 0 degrees. Then I'm going to go at 24 at 90 degrees. I'm going to say at 36 at 180 degrees. And I'm going to close that, and now I'm done. So there's my border. This is my border. This is the limits of my border. So I'm going to come in a little bit. So I'm going to use what's called the offset command, AFFSET. All right. I'm going to give the distance I want. I just want to offset in an inch on each side. So I'm going to hit 1, hit enter. Then I'm going to pick my border, and then I'm going to pick on the inside. If you draw it outside, notice it goes outside. I don't want to do that, because if I do that, then that makes my border bigger. It doesn't make me where I want. So I'm going to have my margins kind of inside my border. Okay, again, we're dealing with model space only. We'll get to paper space at a later date. We're going to stick with model space. Once you guys have a really good firm handle on model space, I'll introduce you to paper space. All right, today we're not going to deal with scale factors. We're just going to deal with drawing at 1 equals 1 today. We're going to work on a wiring diagram today. We're going to work on controlling our drawing, controlling the display of our drawing. We're going to talk about line types. We're going to talk about color. We're going to talk about layers. All right, so this is our border. And so let's talk about creating a layer. Type in the layer command, and I will bring the layer dialog box over. And this is what the layer dialog box looks like. In every AutoCAD drawing you start, you're always going to have a 0 layer. By default, it's going to be set to white. It's going to have a line type of continuous, and it's going to have a line weight of default. Transparency is going to be set to 0, and it's not going to have a description. Okay, that's in any drawing you bring up. It's always going to have a layer 0. Now, you can always change the color. I highly recommend against changing the color of the 0 layer or messing with the 0 layer in any way, shape, or form, because it's got special properties. And just note that in the back of your head for right now, and we'll kind of go over that later. Okay, but we're going to create a new layer. All right, this is the button you push to create a new layer here. I'm going to show you both ways to create a layer. I'm going to show you from the command prompt. I'm going to show you from actually doing it up here as well. I'm going to call this border. Okay, I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to set its color. I'm going to set the color to something that stands out a little bit more for me. I'm going to click in, say, let's make that yellow. You can't see me picking the color because it's not on the screen. So I'm picking the color yellow. Now, these are the index colors. You want to know these, okay? Red is always 1, yellow is 2, green is 3, cyan, that's cyan, is 4, blue is 5, magenta is 6, white is 7, but it's also known as black. So keep that in mind. 7 is white or black, depends on what screen resolution you're going for. But know that white plots or prints as black. This is 8, it's a grayscaled color, and 9 is a little bit lighter grayscale color. Now down here you have some special ones. There's 250, 251, 250, 54, and 55. All right. Now there's color index here of 0 to 255. So you have 256 colors, and that's all these up here if you want to pick one of these colors up here. All right. There's also true color, so you can get into actually blending and everything else out. We'll get into that later, but we're going to stay away from that. I'm going to stay away from color books for right now. I'm going to stick with index color. Okay, so get to know these colors. Know what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are. Okay, get familiar with that. All right, so we're going to go with let's go with purple. All right, I'll pick OK, and that's my color. Now, I need to change these items to my layer. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this, and over here on the properties, I can actually set the layer, and I can pick that, and I can pick my border layer. Okay, now that's how you do it, kind of driving, and this is more of a day-to-day thing. You will find yourself using these interfaces quite well, but you can do every bit of that from the command prompt, and I'm going to show you that right now. And you'll notice I use a mix and match of keyboard, dialogues, and things like that. I typically don't use the buttons and the menus and things like that. I want you to understand where things are and how to get to them. To get to the layer command, just type in LAYER, okay? And that will pop up the layer dialog box. Now, to get the command line version of it, you type in -layer, okay? That gives you command line version. Now, if you notice, down here at the bottom, we have all these command options, okay? Because it's trying to mimic everything that you had available to you in that dialog box. So we're going to say N for new, and I'm going to say paper limits is the name of my layer. Okay, limits. Okay, and I'm going to set the color of that layer to, let's say, 250 3. That's one of those grayscale colors. Actually, I tell you what, I'll use 9, so it kind of looks a little bit different there. Okay, I'll type in 9 there. All right, now it's asking for the layer that I actually want that to go, and I have to actually type it in that I want it to go to that layer. So I'm going to say paper limits. Type that in, and then now that assigned that color to paper limits. Now I can exit from this and hit enter. All right, so now I want to change this to be on paper limits. Now again, I could come up here and I could pick paper limits, set it that way, and you notice it's kind of grayed out. I'm going to undo that, but now I want to actually change that with the keyboard command. I'm going to type in change, and I'm going to select the object, this one here. And then it's saying, what do you want to change? You want to change a point or you want to change properties? I'm going to hit P for properties. All right. And then I'm going to change this layer. And I'm going to type in paper limits. Okay. And then I'm done. And now it's changed that layer. All right. So there's lots of ways you can do things in AutoCAD. You can use the dialog box, or this is actually a palette, and it's actually the properties palette. This is going to be something commonly you will use a lot. All right. Because when you highlight things, you can kind of work with it, manipulate common properties. If you highlight multiple objects, you highlight one object, you can kind of manipulate some certain properties there as well. Okay. So again, get familiar with the command line and understand how to actually use it to make things happen. So if I want to make a new layer, I'm going to type in dash layer. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer, and we're going to call this one wire. All right. Oops, hold on here. That's right up there. Okay. Dash layer. And I'm going to say new. And I'm going to type in wire. All right. And that's it. Now I want to set a color for wire. I'm going to go ahead and set my color for wire, and I'm going to say, I'm going to type in, let's make it red. What's the color of red? It is 2. I'm going to type in 2. I could type in red, but I'm just going to type in the number 2 because it's actually easier to know the index numbers. Okay. And the layer I want that to be for is wire. And then, yeah, typically when you're drawing wires, you typically want them to have a different line type. But for right now, we're going to leave that part alone, and we're going to get into line types in just a few minutes. All right, so let's draw a piece of wire. I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to pick here to here. Boom. All right, now what's wrong? It's not on the right layer. If I pick this and I look at it, it's a 0. And if you look at over here, when you don't have anything selected, it shows your default current properties. Right now, my color is set to by layer, which is the way you want to draw, and you want to maintain that as a habit. Don't get in the habit of coming here and picking in the color and say, okay, now I can draw a line, and look, it's red. Woohoo! That's not what you want to do. That's bad. Bad practice there. Okay, so avoid that. Make sure this is set to by layer and keep it that way. All right. So I want this to be on my other layer. Again, I can use the change command. I can select last. L for last is a nice quick utility. You don't have to actually reach up there and pick it. You don't have to put your hand on the mouse. You don't have to sit there and try and pick it. You hit L and hit enter, and it selects that last object you were just working with. And now I'm going to hit enter because I'm done selecting objects. And now I'll say what I want to do. I'm going to hit P for properties, and I'm going to say layer, and I'm going to type in wire. Okay. Now it's not case sensitive on my layers. Okay. And then I'm going to hit enter, and I'm done. And now you can see that's actually, well, I did not hit, I used the wrong layer. Dash layer. It is the right layer, but I set it to 2 instead of 1, which is what I need to do. I was actually thinking about something else. Okay, I'm going to say color, and I'm going to set 1. And it's the layer name is wire. I'm going to go ahead and change that. And again, that's how you do it from the command prompt. If I wanted to do that from the layer dialog, I can layer, pick it, and then I can actually just pick here, and then I can pick a different color for it. Okay, but again, I'm trying to show you the command line options. You will find that this dialog box is much better than what it used to be a long time ago. It used to be a static command. Now you can actually leave this up, and you can just use this on a different screen, and you can just pick and go. You don't have to actually type in layer every time. You can actually leave it up. I typically don't. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna close that out. All right, so we've drawn a wire here. I'm going to use the zoom extents command that gets everything on the screen for me, and I can see that. Now, I want to have some other wires to put in here, okay? I want to have 3 wires. We're going to work on a circuit. We're just working on a 3-way switch circuit, all right? So I want a hot, a neutral, and a ground, all right? I tell you what we'll do is we'll use the colors that they typically are. Well, we can't really quite do that, can we? No, because black and white are don't really show up at the same time on the screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to create another line. We're going to use some more layers. I'm going to do dash layer, and I'm gonna set new, and let's call this one neutral. All right, and I'm gonna set a color for that. What color do we think that should be? Let's go with white, actually, 7, and I'm gonna set that for neutral. All right, good. All right, so now I'm gonna create another layer. I'm gonna say new, and I'm gonna call this ground. All right, because our ground is also an important part of our circuit. All right, I'm gonna set the color for ground, and I'm gonna set that to green, which is 3. All right, and then I'm gonna set that for ground, and then I'm gonna hit enter. Now I'm gonna use the offset command because I want my lines to be consistently distanced. So I'm gonna type in O for offset. I'm gonna set them at 0.375 apart. And I'm gonna pick here, and then I'm gonna offset down, and then I'm gonna do another one, offset down. Now I'm gonna kind of click here, and I'm gonna use the uh, properties palette over here, and I'm gonna go ahead and set that to neutral. And now I'm gonna hit escape to unselect that, and then I'm gonna pick the next one, and I'm gonna set this one to ground. All right. Now what we need something to do over here is identify some things over here. I'm going to call this, I'm going to put some text in here. So let's talk about the style command. All right. I'm going to type in style. And you have the standard style command. The standard is always in every drawing. All right. You can modify it, you can tweak it, you can mess with it, you can do a few things with it. Now, Arial is a true type font. There's 2 types of fonts that you actually use inside AutoCAD. All right. There is fonts, there's 2 type fonts, and then there's also SHX fonts, which are traditional AutoCAD fonts. You can kind of see how they have an AutoCAD symbol next to them and they say SHX. All right. If you go down, we typically use in the industry, we use Simplex, Romans, are the kind of standards that we actually use. So I'm going to go down here to Roman S here, right here. Pick that as my font. Okay. And that's typically a good one for standard. But in all reality, you don't want to mess with standard. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to hit enter, just run the style command again. And I'm going to create a new style. I'm going to call this one T1. All right. This is one of the ones that I kind of like to use. I'm going to call it 25, T125 for text that's 0.125, or in other words, 1/8 of an inch in height. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to give it a height here. You can have what's called a predefined height. If you predefine the height, the text command will not prompt you for that text value. So I'm going to put that in 0.125 because my style is text. So I'm going to go 0.125. I'm not going to make it annotative. We won't get into that right now. And again, I want this to be Roman S. So I'm going to type in Roman S and hit enter. All right. It's a regular font. Width factor, I'm going to stick with 1.0 for right now, but we'll get into what that does and means later. You can kind of see what it's going to look like down here whenever you type something. So I'm going to pick apply on that, and then I'm going to make sure that's current. All right, and I'm going to close. Now, if I type in the text command, text, and I want this to line up with this right here. By default, your text is left justified. So if I start typing, I just pick here, and I hit enter for my rotation, and I just start typing. You can see it's all left justified. That means it's all lined up right here. Okay, but if I wanted that to all be right justified, I want it to be on the right hand side, I can actually tell AutoCAD that. I can type in text, I can say R for right justified, and then I can pick right here, and then my rotation's here, and then I can type in my text. We're going to call this hot. And I want to have that uppercase. 9 times out of 10, you're going to stay on uppercase in AutoCAD. And there I have my hot. Okay. Now I can either do text again, or I can use the copy command. Now I'd like these to all be in the same exact spot on each one of these lines. So I'm going to use an O-snap on each line to copy that down. Use the copy command. I'm going to pick here, and then I'm going to hit the endpoint of here. Now I'm going to copy it straight down to the other endpoint of that one. And then I'm going to straight down to the endpoint of this one. All right. Now with text, you can also use the change command as well to change this. If I hit change and I hit enter, and then if I just hit enter here, it starts asking me for things. It says specify new insertion point, enter for no change. Now, if I wanted to pick another spot, it would put it there, but I'm going to hit enter. And now it says change or enter new text. So I can type in new text. I'm going to type in neutral. And I'm done. Asking for the angle, I'm going to enter, and then I'm done. And I don't have to worry. Now I can hit escape. Oops, I didn't do that right. My bad. Change. Again, you typically don't use this interface for this, but I'm just trying to show you the command line options. Enter, enter, okay, text style is enter, rotation is 0, and now the new text, neutral, enter, and then I'm done. All right, so I've added that new text. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to type in enter and hit change. Boom, enter. No change for spot, no change for the style, no change to the rotation, but here's my new value. I'm going to type in ground. All right, and you see they all line up nice and neat. All right, to show you another way to change these texts, I'm going to copy and I'm going to drop it down here for a second. So I could just double click on it and it puts me in with kind of a dynamic edit mode. All right, so I can actually just change this to whatever I want it to be. When you double click on it, it's highlighting everything. So if you start typing new text, it just replaces it. If you double click, if you click on it and then you pick somewhere, it'll put the cursor there and you could add things into it. Like if I wanted to go to the end, I could go to the home, I go to the end, and then I could type wire. If I wanted it to be on the end. If I want to go to the home, I could type in new ground wire and I could put a space in there. So it gives you a couple of different ways to edit text. All right. There's also a couple of settings. You can have it to where it actually pops up in a dialog box or pops up in that little dynamic mode right there. We'll get into that stuff later, but I just want to kind of get you going. All right. So we have our hot, our neutral, and our ground. Now these are our power lines. This is our circuit that runs through our house, and we're all good with that. Okay. So now we need a light. All right. Typically a light symbol is shown as a circle, and you have like four lines that are outside the circle, but they're kind of at a 45-degree angle all the way around. Okay, so we're going to draw a circle. And a typically good size for a circle symbol is, or a light symbol is like 0.375 for a diameter. So I'm going to specify D for diameter. I'm going to say 0.375. All right. Oh, actually, I picked a point. That's not my bad. All right, circle. And I'm going to pick a point. And now I'm going to type in diameter 0.375. Boom. And there's my circle. Now I want a line at 45 degrees up here, and 45 degrees here, and 45 degrees here, and 45 degrees here. So I can do this in a couple ways. I can actually draw the lines. I can say line from center of here, and I can say at 0.5 at 45 degrees. And I could do it again, I'd say line from center of here at 0.5 at 135 degrees. And I could just go all the way around at the 45-degree increments around the circle. Or I could draw one of these, get it the way I want it, and then array it, okay, in a circular array. We'll talk about that in just a second, okay? So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to draw it from this quadrant of here. And I'm going to draw it out 0.125. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and move that line because I typically want it to be, actually, you know what, I'm going to leave right there. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the rotate command, R-O-T-A-T-E, or L for last, and I'll pick the center point of the circle, and I'm going to rotate that 45 degrees. So now I have that at 45 degrees. I'm happy. Okay, now I want to use the array command. I'm going to type in dash array. Okay, this gets me the traditional array command. Okay, there's an array that comes up with a dialog box. There's an array that comes with the command line. I typically like to use the command line. I'm going to hit dash array. I'm going to select last object, L for last. I'm going to hit enter. Now, you have two types of arrays. You have a rectangular, which is columns and rows, or you have a polar array, which means it rotates around the circle. I'm going to say P for polar. The default is rectangular. All right, my base is going to be the center of this circle because I want it to rotate around the center of this circle. And a number of items I want in the array. I want 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to hit 4 because it includes the one that you're rotating. 4. And then it's going to ask, do you want to go 360 degrees? You want to go 180 degrees? How far do you want this to rotate? So if I wanted it to do 4 between here and 90 degrees, I could type in just 45 degrees, and it would actually put 4 between here and 45 degrees. But I want it to go all the way around. So 360, I hit enter, that defaults that, and then I say, yes, rotate as you go around the circle. So that means it maintains the rotation as it goes around. And there you have, there's our light fixture. Okay, so we're going to move our light over here, and I'm just picking spots. I'm not picking any particular hard spots or anything like that. Now, when we have a three-way switch, we have a light, we have power, but we also need two three-way switches. All right. Now, the three-way switches are kind of tricky. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw what kind of looks like that. All right. I'm going to draw a circle here. This is going to be one point of the switch. And I'm going to put a radius on this of, well, it's by default radius. So I'm going to say 0.0625. All right, that's my radius. And I want a couple of these points. I want one, oh, this is going to be my connection to my hot line. So I'm going to set my layer to hot. Okay, so what I can do is I can come over here, I can actually click here and set my layer to wire. Now I can draw a line from near this wire here and draw it straight down. Hit F8 to get my ortho on so that I'm drawing on a straight lines, either east and west or north south. I'm going to pick it to about here. All right. Now I'm going to move this circle, okay, to where it's at the end point of that right there. So I'm going to move this from center of this to E and D point of this. Now, typically in a wiring diagram, you touch one of the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over, and I'm just going to move it over here about 0.5, half an inch. Okay, I'm going to draw a line from the E and D point of this to the quadrant of this. All right. Now, we have that point there. That's my common that comes from my hot. All right. So now I want to draw some more components of the switch because I have to be able to switch to two spots on a three-way switch. Okay, so I'm going to copy. There's shortcuts that you can get in AutoCAD, and I'll show you how to configure those later, but typically commands like C works for copy. Sometimes it's, and then circle is CK. You have all kinds of different things as well. So we'll kind of go into this here, how to get the shortcuts you want. Okay, I'm going to move this over, say 0.5. Okay, and now I want another one of these. Okay, I'm going to copy another one of these, and I'm going to go up, let's go 0.375. All right, now I'm going to move these down 0.25, 0.25, no, 0.125. Good. Now that's kind of right in the middle, not quite in the middle, so I'm going to move down a little farther. Like 0.0625. Okay, the increments I'm using are 1/8 inch, 1/16 of an inch, 32nd of an inch. These are things you're going to typically use when you're drawing. So get used to those. You have 0.125 is 1/8 of an inch, 0.25 is 1/4 of an inch, 0.5 is 1/2 an inch. Okay, 0.75 is 3/4 of an inch. All right, so you'll use these measurements because they're very familiar on tape measure. And typically when people are working in the field, they have a tape measure and it has these units of measure on them. They don't typically have tenths of an inch or 74 32nds of an inch, or, you know, that's a horrible number, but they don't typically have those things on their tape measure. So if you ever look at a tape measure, you'll typically see them go down to a 1/16 of an inch. Sometimes you'll see some that just go to 1/8 of an inch, but 1/16 of an inch is getting kind of small. Once you get past 1/16 of an inch, you go into a 32nd of an inch, and it gets really tiny at that point. So you go to 64th, and then 128th, and then 256th. So we won't get into those measurements. Okay, so we have part of our switch here, but we also have to have a line that actually connects this. So I'm going to draw a line from the center of here. Okay, and then I want to take it to what's called the tangent of this. I'm going to type in TAN. Okay, that means straight to the edge, but to where it just intersects exactly at that point. I hit that like that, and there I am. So now this is my switch. I probably need to make a layer for the switch. I'm going to type in the layer command. We're going to go to the dialog box, and I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to type in switch, because we want this to be on switch. And again, I'm going to fix my character case there so it looks better. And we're going to make our switches. Let's pick a different color for that. Let's go with not green. Yeah, yellow works for me. Let's go with yellow. Pick OK. All right. And so I'm going to close that. And I'm going to set this, and this to the yellow layer. I'm sorry, the switch layer. My bad. All right. This needs to go on the switch layer as well. I missed it. So I'll go ahead and fix that. Put that in switch layer. Now I need to trim this out so it's not actually coming from this point here. So I'm going to hit the TR, trim, pick the circle, and I'm going to delete that part out. So now we have my switch right here. Now sometimes it's also better if this actually extends past the circle. All right, so I'm going to draw a line from the quadrant of this down, okay? And then I'm just going to extend this line like so. Okay, that kind of gets out there. But I think I want that to go a little bit farther so it's a little more prevalent. So I'm going to offset that 0.0625, and I'm going to go out a little bit farther. And now I'm going to extend that line to there. Now that looks a little better. It's a little more noticeable. And you can kind of see how that switches between there and there. So if this was going to this terminal, it would rotate and it'd come down to here. All right, so now I need another one of these. Now this is one three-way switch. So I need another three-way switch. So I'm going to type in the mirror command. I'm going to highlight these objects. Okay. And I know I want a wire, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that right there. And I'm going to pick a spot over here. And I'm going to pick it about here. Boom. And that's good. All right. So now I've got my objects. It's asking me, do I want to erase the source object? I'm going to hit in or return, which gives me the default of no. So it keeps that object. I want to move my light fixture so it's not actually in the middle of my switch. So I'm going to use the M move command, move, pick the objects, and I'm just kind of move them over here. Okay. Now I can probably go ahead and move this circle to where this quadrant is on this endpoint here, or I can extend this down. I'm going to use my grips at this point to kind of stretch this line. I'm going to click here, drag it down a little bit. Now I'm going to say a 0.5 here and be good there. Now I'm going to move with a window. I'm going this way because if I use crossing, it would grab the wire. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to pick there. I'm going to go from the quadrant, this circle, to the endpoint of this line. I'm going to type in END and pick it, and there I am. So my light is going there. Now I need two wires from here to here. Now these are my travelers. Okay, in a three-way circuit, you have travelers. Okay, you have a hot on this side, and you have the switch leg on this side. These are your commons. This is the common terminal. This is a common terminal, and these are traveler terminals. Okay, I'm going to go from here, QUA of here to QUA of here. Now I'm going to go from QUA of here to QUA of here. The order was not specific on that. You could have used any order you wanted to use. You could have gone from here to here and here to here, or you could actually use the offset command and draw this one in and then offset it from the center of this to the center of this, and then you have that same distance. You would have actually got the same results. Okay, definitely plenty of ways to do these things. All right, so now we have power to our light, but we don't have any neutral connected to our light, so we have to have a neutral connected to our light. I need to set my layer to the neutral layer. I'm going to hit the neutral. Boom. I'm going to draw from my light on the other side, because on the light, you have two wires that go to the light. You typically actually have three, but we're going to cover all three of them here in just a second. You have to have the hot and the neutral to get that circuit to complete. So I'm going to draw a line from the QUA quadrant of this circle over this way. I'm going to say 1, and then I'm going to go up to my neutral wire, PER, perpendicular to this point right here. Okay, and there's my neutral wire. Notice it's white, it matches as well. And then I also need to have a ground coming off this light fixture as well. Because, you'll mostly get a ground. If it's purely a plastic fixture, you're not going to have a ground on it, but most fixtures have some metal in them, so they will have a ground on them. So I'm going to draw a line from the quadrant of here just to represent our ground so that we show the base or the body of the fixture is grounded. I'm going to draw that down 0.25. All right. And that's our ground. So I'm going to change this to the ground layer so we can see that it's green. All right. Now, another symbol in the electrical library is a ground symbol. I'm going to draw a ground symbol for us. I'm going to draw from here. I'm going to draw this over, let's say 0.25. Boom. And then I'm going to offset this. Offset. And we're going to say 0.0625. And I'm going to, oops, that on the line command, my bad. Offset 0.0625. All right. Again, that's a 16th of an inch. All right, and that's, we might be able to squeeze more in there. Now I'm going to draw a line from the endpoint of this to the mid of this, if I can type to this. Oh, that's my bad. Hold on. Erase. Line from END point of here to mid of here. And then I'm going to do another one from mid of here to END point of here. Now I'm going to use the trim command to make this look more like a ground symbol. I'm going to click here, here, and I'm just going to trim here and here. All right. This one at the bottom, I can just erase because I don't need it. And then I'm going to erase these two outlines here. This is what a ground symbol looks like. I'm going to move it from the mid of here to the endpoint of, if I can type, there. All right. And I want to move all that to the green ground layer. So I'm going to highlight it all just by dragging. Again, I'm just using the window. If I use the crossing, it would grab the green line as well. I don't want to do that, but it's actually going the same layer, so it really wouldn't matter. Again, window from left to right just selects what's inside the box. Crossing, right to left, grabs whatever it touches and everything inside of it. So it's layer, this varies. I'm going to actually set them all to ground, so they'll all show up as ground. All right, so now we have our basic circuit. But now we have to identify a few things up here. We have to actually show this connects. All right. inside electrical diagrams and most schematics and things like that, you'll show that by putting a solid dot on this. All right. Couple of ways to do a solid dot. All right. We're going to do a couple of different ways. All right. Now we can do what's called a donut, D-O-N-U-T. All right. Type in donut and it says inside diameter. I'm going to say 0. All right. And then outside diameter is going to be 0.0625. All right. And then I can place that somewhere. And I'm going to put it to the end point of here. And now I have a solid dot there. Okay. Hit enter. And now you see my solid little dot there. If I want that to be a little bit bigger, I have to actually do this a little bit differently. Because this, if you notice, starts getting kind of quirky. The donut command essentially creates a polyline. Okay. It's just a shortcut for creating a polyline that fits a very specific purpose. So that's why when I start grabbing at the grips, it gets pretty funky. So I'm going to hit undo, 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 undo. Now I can cheat this and I can resize this by using the scale command. Type in scale. And I've already got it highlighted. So it's asked me for a point. I can say endpoint or intersection of that. And now I can actually say I want it to be twice as big as it is right now. So I'm going to say 2. And so now it matches the circle size of this right here. Now I want this to be on a different layer. So I'm going to create a layer and I'm going to call that connect. Okay, for connection points. All right. And we're going to set that to go with blue. All right, pick OK. And we'll set that way. And I'm going to highlight that by windowing it. And I'm going to set that to connect. All right, so my connections will show up as blue. Now I need another connection from here to here. Copy from the end point of here to int of here. All right, and there you have it. Now, ground, I don't have to tie in my ground because ground is always just shown this way. You don't actually have to go back and force it to go back. If you wanted to, you could just come across here and show it and tie it in over here as well. But it's not something required. If you actually just show the ground symbol here, it knows that it's going to the ground symbol. And it's kind of a shortcut in protection schemes because you know it's there when you're grounding. All right. So the way this works is if you want the light to come on, it has to be able to complete this circuit. Power comes down through this wire here. It's 120 volts. Comes through this switch, goes up this way because this is the way that's connected. It travels across this traveler, comes down this side of the switch because it's connected, hits the light, goes into the little resistance of the light, which is that filament, and then it starts glowing and it comes across here. If you come down here and you turn one of these switches off by RO, or I'm going to actually mirror it, and I use the center point of this, and I flip that switch, boom, and I say yes, erase. Now this light is off. All right. So power comes down, comes over here, and stops. It can't go anywhere. This is called an open circuit. There's nothing connecting this. If I wanted to, I could come over here though and turn this one on. I can use the mirror command to simulate that. I'll go to center, click here, drag it down, erase the object, and yes, now the light is back on. That's how a three-way circuit works. All right. So we're in pretty good shape there, and that kind of shows that up. Now, you can also do things a little bit differently with line types. All right. We're going to type in the line type command. Line type command allows you to load and utilize different types of line types. All right. So you can click load. As you can see, there's 3 line types in here: bilayer, biblock, and continuous. Bilayer and biblock are not actually line types. They're actually just settings. All right. But continuous is always in every drawing. It's not an actual true definition. It just means it's going to be solid all the way across. I'm going to hit load. All right. Now the load gives you, it opens a file called the acad.lin file. This is somewhere in your AutoCAD path. Okay. And your file support path, as far as if it's AutoCAD or if it's draft site, you're going to have the same kind of options there because it's going to find a line file, an LIN file to read that. That LIN file is just a text file that has a text definition that defines how a line type is to be presented. All right, I'm going to scroll down here. 9 times out of 10, you're going to use some of these standard line types. Most common ones are going to be center, hidden, and phantom. These are going to be the most you use. I'm going to go with hidden, and we're going to use hidden 2, which is half scale hidden. I'm going to pick OK. I'll load that, and I'm good. Now that's in my drawing, I'm just going to pick OK. I'm out of the line type command. So say I want these lines, which are my circuit lines, all to be shown as field wiring. Okay, so I want them to differ a little bit. So I want to set these layers like that to have that. So, but if I set that layer that all this wire is on, it's going to change that one as well. So I might need to create a new layer. But for now, let's go ahead and type in the layer command, and we're going to set the wire command, the wire layer, to use a different line type. And I'm going to go ahead and pick that line type we loaded, hidden. And you can always load from this box as well. But I'm just going to go OK. And now that is set to hidden too. And I close that out, and you can see how that shows as hidden now. Okay, but I wanted this one to stay continuous. Now I could cheat. I could come over here and say boom and set it to, not that. I could set it here and say continuous. Boom. And now that's done. Problem is, if somebody uses my drawing and they want to change that using the layer, because they can't actually change it to the next rep, they wouldn't be able to do that. And you don't want to use these hard-coded properties over here. So I'm going to set that back to my layer and leave it that way. And I'm going to just create another layer, because otherwise you're being lazy. All right, so create another layer, and I'm going to create a layer called main wire. All right, gives you a little difference there. And I'm going to set it to red. I'm going to leave it as red, but I'm going to set it to continuous. It's already set to continuous there by default, because that's the layer I was actually was set to, was already set that way. All right, so now I'm going to hit this, and I'm going to set that to main wire. All right, so now I have my variations, but I also want my neutral wire to do the same thing. So I would have to repeat that same process for this one here, okay, for field wire. So I'm going to go later. I'm going to click on my neutral, and I'm going to set that to hidden. Boom. And now I also need to create another layer called main neutral. Right, and I'm going to set that to continuous. All right, great. And now I'm going to set this one, because that's my main line, and I'm going to put that to main neutral. And so now I have my variations and everything is good. Now, when you're drawing something, you also have to annotate it. Okay, annotation means text or pointing to things and saying what this is or anything like that. So I'm going to draw some text here, and I'm just going to draw some text going up in the vertical direction. I'm going to type TEXT. I'm going to pick here, and this time I'm going to use rotation going north. For legibility, you typically want your text direction to be between 0 and 90 degrees. You want to avoid going 180 or 280 degrees. You don't want to have upside down text. You read the way the prints are kind of printed, so you know that you want it to go 0 or 90 degrees. You want to stay in those orientations. When I'm typing this at this interface, it's going to draw it across the screen where it's legible, so I can read it easily. But when I finish, it's going to rotate it up. Okay, I'm also on right aligned, which is not what I wanted, but I'll show you how to fix that in just a second. 3-way, and I'm gonna hit enter, and notice it rotates and goes up and down. Now, if I click on here, you see 2 grips. This means it's got a right justification. That second point there is where it is. I can grab it and move it if I want to do it that way, or I can pick on it and I can change the justification over here. I can set the justification to left because I want it to be left. Pick there, and now it's just a 1 point, and I can bring it down to here. And I can hit there, and now I'm good. All right. So again, I can either do the same thing over here, or I can use that copy command, and I can copy it from the same spot from one to the other. I'm going to say here, center here to center, not center, but I'll use this point X. If I do center here, it's going to move down. I don't want that. So I'm going to hit boom to get away from that. I'm going to say point X. This is called a point filter. I just want the X coordinate of this circle here. I'm going to say center of here. And then I'm going to drag for my Y and my Z. Boom. And I'm done. So now I have those both in the exact same spot. I need a tag for my light as well. I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to grab it, and I'm just going to move it over here to where it looks good. And then I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to change it to light. All right. Good. And I think that pretty much takes care of us. But here's something else. We want to plot this drawing, okay? We want to print this to a piece of paper or to a PDF nowadays when you have electronic printing methods, all right? So if I want to print this to a piece of paper, I'm going to zoom extents, okay? I can type in the plot command. I have shown you guys a lot today, but we're going to continue just to build on this and everything else. In the plot dialog box, you have a couple of different things. You have a page setup, none. I'm not using anything. I'm just going to leave it alone. You have a printer or plotter you want to plot to. Okay. Now you have a lot of different options here. I'm going to pick just AutoCAD PDF, high quality, And that works really well for me. Okay, I pick that. Now I have my properties, what size sheet I'm going to do or anything like that. You know, specific properties, I'm going to leave it all defaulted right there. Now down here we have the paper size. Now we know we did a 24 by 36, correct? So we know that that is an arch D. That is a 24 by 36. All right. I'm clicking here so you can see that there's a 36 by 24 and a 24 by 36. Stick with the default of landscape because it automatically will go to portrait when we're stick with the one that's basically portrait and it'll actually move to landscape as we actually do things. Okay, now what do I want to plot? All right, I want to plot extents, window, limits. All right, my limits are my extents are exactly what I want them to be, but I'm going to go ahead and pick a window and I'm going to pick from endpoint of here to endpoint of here, because that is my sheet size that I drew earlier. I used the scroll wheel to zoom out on that. All right, so now that is my window that I'm plotting. This is an offset. I want to go ahead and center the plot. That's fine. So it's going to center the plot in the sheet. And you can notice it's all nice and neat up here. And fit to paper. I don't want fit to paper because this is a 1 equals 1. So I'm going to say 1 equals 1. Okay. And so I hit that. Now you notice things go turn red. That's because my lines are right on the edge, but I don't really care about the lines, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm done. Now, my plot style table. This is how you control what colors do what. All right. None means it's going to plot whatever is there is going to come out and it's not going to be very legible and it won't look very good in print. You want to go with something basically it's called monochrome right now. Click on monochrome and that'll set everything in here to go to a black and a white. Okay. And that you will not print in color. All right. And I'm going to pick OK. All right. And then since I'm plotting to a PDF, it's asking me where I want to send that PDF. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it three-way and way. Make sure you use uppercase, lowercase properly, make it look good. All right. Hit enter and it plotted that out. Now I'm going to bring that up over here so you can kind of see what that looks like. Here is that PDF that we just made. Okay. And you can look inside your PDF if it says it showed in here. It's not showing my, let's see if I can show, well, typically, I'll have to find that setting. It's a setting in Adobe. It'll actually show you the seat size that you're actually dealing with here, but you can see it's actually at 24 by 36. But you can actually zoom in. What's nice about a PDF in AutoCAD is it's very sharp lines and everything else. It's plotted to an actual D-size sheet. So you can see how smooth these circles are and everything else. You can see how this fills in, pretty neat. You see how this all comes in and everything else. All right. So you have your three-way circuit. Okay, and this is just an Adobe PDF. You can actually take this and drop this on your printer or email this to a friend, whatever you needed to do. All right. So there's our drawing. We're good to go with that. And I think that's going to kind of wrap up what I wanted to teach you guys today. So let's go for some questions.
I'm really just looking forward to getting to mess around with this.
Yeah, okay, well, good. We need to get you guys some AutoCAD. What you got, Liam?
Do you know around when we're going to start 3D?
Let me get you to where you're really good with 2D. I will gladly show you some 3D stuff, and we can do that right now. So I'm going to start a new drawing. We'll do a little teaser, okay? Okay. 3D is actually pretty simple, but it's more complex for some people because they have been taught to draw in a 2D world. And I'd like you guys to understand the difference. You know, when you're dealing with X, Y, and Z coordinates, okay? You have an X going this way, Y going this way, and the Z is coming up towards us or going away from us. Okay, I'm gonna hit F7 to turn off my grid. Okay, I'm gonna draw something. Okay, let's say, let's go with let's draw a phone. A phone is pretty simple. Let's draw an iPhone, okay? P line, I'm gonna draw a P line. I'm gonna go from here. And if I get my dimensions from my phone, let me get my dimensions from my phone here. You can't see me doing this, but I'm going to just get some dimensions from my phone. That's going to be 3.2 by, these are rough estimates here, guys. 3.2 by 6.25. So I'm going to say 3.2 in this direction. I'm going to 6.5 in this direction. I'm going to 3.2 back this direction. And I'm going to go close. All right. So here's my phone case. But you know, a phone is not just a big block thing. Okay. It's got nice smooth edges, fillets around it. So we're going to use that fillet command. Fillet. Okay. And I'm going to set that radius to be about 0.375. Okay. R is boom, 0.375. I'm going to hit P for polyline. That will it'll polyline fillet the whole thing. All right. So that kind of looks like the shape of my phone. I like that. So now I want to make that 3D. Okay. We can use what's called the extrude command. The extrude command allows me to take that and extrude that. The thickness of my phone is, let's gauge on that real quick, is 0.42. Okay, 0.42. I'm gonna say 0.42. Boom. And now I'm done. So that's actually a 3D object. The way I can actually get to that 3D object is I can click up here, and these corners show you southwest isometric, southeast isometric, northeast, and northwest isometrics. Or you can actually click the side views, northeast, west side. Okay, I'm going to click the southwest isometric. That's a very common one to be used. I do that, and you can kind of see it's there. I type in the shade command. It's not going to be very pretty because it's going to be all black. Oh, it's not too bad. All right. And you can kind of see that the phone looks there. If I hold down the shift key and I press down the center mouse button or scroll wheel, I can actually drag that around and kind of look at it. All right. But you know, we have to put some camera lenses on the back of this thing too, right? So what we can do is we can type in circle, and I can type in CN of here. Boom. And I can put a little circle there. Let's say it's a 0.1875 diameter. Okay. And say I want to move that over. I want to copy that because there's like 3 of those things there. They're a little bit bigger than that actually. So I'm going to move that over a little bit. I'm going to move this over. Oops, not that. Move last. This way, I'm going to go 0.125 this way. I'm going to move it again, previous, and move it down 0.125. Okay. And I'm going to copy that last. And I'm going to go over here, let's say 0.5. And we're going to go down 0.5 as well. All right, good. Now I want to move this one down to where it's in between these two right here. I can use what's called, now if I look over here, you notice we're in shade mode, so it kind of shows things a little bit differently. Your UCS icon has a green shaded look, and your Z has a blue shaded look, and your X has a red shaded look. All right, so I want to move this circle to be right in between this. So that's the point Y of the middle of these two right here. So I'm going to use a couple of different O snaps here and point filters combination to get there. I'm going to say move, and I'm going to window this because it's kind of difficult to pick that when it's in shaded mode. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to take from the center of this. Now I want the Y that's in between these two here. I'm going to type in point Y of, now I'm going to say the mid between 2 points, M to P. And now I'm going to type in the center, and I'm going to pick the center of this one, and I'm going to pick the center of this one. And now it's locked into that spot. Now all it's asking me for now is an X and Z. If I don't want to actually move my X and Z, so I'm going to say at 0, 0, 0. It's going to ignore the 0 for the Y because I've already specified my Y. It's only going to take the X, which is the first value, and the Z, which is the last value of what I'm typing in, which are both 0. Now I need to extrude those a little bit to make those look good. Okay, I could make those a little bit bigger too, or I could create a bezel. Okay, so I'm going to offset these. And I'm going to say 0.03125. Okay, to get a little offset in there. Okay, boom, boom, and boom, boom, and boom, boom. All right, so I'm offsetting those up a little bit. So now I'm going to extrude these up. All right, I'm going to extrude all 3 of them. And I'm just going to take them up just a little bit. So I could drag, or I can actually tell at a positive distance because I'm going up in the Z axis. Okay, so I'm going to make this a, let's say, 0.03125 up as well. Good. All right, so there's those. Now I want to kind of sink the center one in a little bit, okay? And then I want to kind of subtract out, or maybe just subtract that out from the outer one, okay? And that'll create kind of a look of a bezel that's kind of on there, okay? So I'll try to subtract. I'm going to subtract from this. I'm going to subtract this. See how it highlights a little bit? That shows what I'm picking there. and hit that. And, oh, I did finish my subtracting. Subtract, pick the one you want to subtract from. And then, so what do you want to subtract? I'm going to pick, see how it's highlighted? Now I can pick it. Actually, I'm still on subtract. I gotta have, now I can pick it, and it subtracts it, kind of sucks that out of it, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing here. Hit enter, and then pick the things I want to subtract, which is, gotta get it where it shows, there, boom. And I'm gonna do the same thing here, boom, enter, and then pick what I want to subtract, click, boom. Now it's kind of subtracted out. But now it's kind of not as cool because it just looks like a bunch of rings sitting on there, okay? So I probably didn't want to subtract that out, or I want to actually add another extrusion in there, or I wanted to move them up. So I'm going to say undo, 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 and I'm just going to move those center ones up a little bit. Or actually, better yet, I can move the bezels up a little bit. Boom. And I can take them up. Actually, no, that's not going to work. Let's move these down. No, not that one. Okay. And I'm just gonna move those down a very slight amount. I'm gonna say 0.003125. Boom. And you, oh, and since I didn't subtract, actually I want to move them up. Move previous. I'm gonna move them up just a little bit. 0.025. Boom. All right, so now it kind of looks a little bit better there. All right, so anything. Again, if you use your layers and things like that as well, you can create a layer. And you create a color for your layer. Let's create another layer. We'll call it phone base. And I'll set that to a color. And we'll use something cool. We'll use a subtle color here, like something like this. Okay. And I'll put that. And what I'm going to do is pick the base. And I'm going to put that to my phone base layer. And you kind of see how that kind of stands out a little bit. Makes it look a little bit cooler. All right. Now I can actually set these to a layer that's actually black. So they actually stand a little more. I'm going to pick a layer, and I'm going to create this. I'm going to say lenses, and we'll set that to not quite black, but a dark color there. Okay. All right. And then we'll close that, and I'll pick that, and then we're going to set those to lenses. All right. Now you kind of have that. Now what's also cool is you can actually set some transparency on these layers as well to get a little bit of transparency going, but we're not going to get into that just yet. All right. So now let's say we need to have our face of our camera as well. We've got, a face of our phone as well. So let's draw that. All right. So we can actually draw the same thing that we actually had. We draw that at, if I wanted to mimic this whole outside here, lots of different ways I could do it. I could actually cheat, go here, 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 and close. Boom. And I didn't quite do that very well. I'm going to move this over to where it's lined up a little bit better. Point X of the EMD point of here. I missed that. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay. All right. So now that's nice and square. So now I can cheat. I can take this. I can grab this. I can take it to the perpendicular to this. If I can actually type and hit it perpendicular to that, I can take that, hit that perpendicular to that, and I can scroll around the other side. Take that to perpendicular to that, and I can scroll on this side. I take this to perpendicular of that. Now I want to fill it radius, and our radius is already set. I'm good. P for P line, and I hit that. Okay. Now, but it has to be a little bit different. It has to be inset a little bit. So I'm going to offset that. Let's say bezel size is 0.09375. And I'm going to hit L for last. See if I can grab that. I'm going to do this. Help just popped up on me. My bad. Type in shade mode. I'm going to go back to 2D. Okay. And now I can actually pick that a little bit better. All right. So I'm going to offset that. That distance that I picked earlier, it's that one. Boom. I offset that in a little bit. It's probably not as much as I want. I want to probably do a couple more times and get closer to where I want it to be. So I'm going to erase these other ones. That one. And now I'm going to take this one here, and I'm going to extrude it. Okay. And I'm going to take it down this time. I'm just going to drag and pick a distance here so it kind of looks good. Okay. And I'm going to create a layer, and I'm going to call it screen. And we're gonna set that to, let's go with a darker color and true color. Boom, something like that. All right. Boom, and then I'm gonna pick that, my last entity that I drew, pick that, I'm gonna set that to screen. Now I'm gonna shade, and you can kind of see, we have our screen here, and we have our cameras on the back. That kind of shows you how to do a very simple utilization using the extrude command and a closed polyline. Okay. If you don't have a closed polyline, you don't end up with a solid. This is called a solid. You click on this, you can actually see it says solid here, and that shows it's a solid. All these items here are all solids. So if I draw it across here, they're all solids. Okay. If you draw a line, you go from here to here, and you extrude that line, you end up with what's called a face. Okay. So you click on that, you see it's a surface. Okay. And that surface is not really that useful. I don't really like using surfaces. I always like to use solids. Surfaces can tend to be a little more complex and they get kind of tedious, but you can sit there and just draw a whole bunch of little surfaces, connect them all together and have a 3D object as well. Okay, but as far as like 3D printing and things like that, this is much cleaner and much more efficient. Okay, so there you go. Now, if you want to know several of the different types of 3D commands, okay, there is sphere. You draw a sphere, boom, just draw a sphere. You can draw a torus. A torus is like a donut, okay? You pick a doom, outside, inside radius, and there's your donut, okay? All right, you can kind of see how these kind of things come together. You can call a 3D box, okay? Boom, and, oh, that's not, no. Box, hey, box, the box. Yeah, just draw a box like so. Okay. And you can join these things by using union. You can subtract, you can slice. So if I wanted to slice that circle in half or that sphere in half, you click there, sphere, center this, drag it that way. Now I have two halves of the circle. I can take this one, move this one over here, and now I have two halves of circle. All right. You can do the same thing with this box. You can slice off a corner. You can do all kinds of, you can slice in so many different ways. If you look at the slice command, like pick this, you have different things that you want to do here. Okay, you have 3 points and everything else. So say if I wanted to slice this from here to here, okay? So I can say 3 point from E and D point of here to E and D point of here, and then draw up here, boom, and I didn't want to get on this plane here. I'm going to use this, and what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to cheat and create a UCS. Okay, my UCS is I want this UCS here, so I type in UCS, and this is the view I'm on. So I hit V for view, and then I select slice, and now I'll pick here, and now it's just looking for 2 points. I can say from here to E and D point of here, boom, boom. Now I'm done. Take this, I can grab this, and now it's a wedge. Okay, there's all kinds of things you can do and build with these kind of things. All right. I think we will wrap that up and call that good. Any other questions?
Can you go around the phone?
Go
I wanna
around.
feel it.
Oh, we can get this on.
What do you want to do around the phone?
Okay, also the phone looks amazing.
Oh.
I just took a video on my iPad of you like circling it around
Uh-huh.
because it looks so good.
Well, the phone is pretty easy to draw. All right. Well, good. All right. I'm glad you guys are enjoying that. And we're not gonna do so much of this yet, but I'm gonna get you guys there. We need to make sure you guys are actually understanding some of this stuff here and getting those layers and things like that down. Because once you get in here, like say you want that screen to be transparent or you want this case to be a little transparent, you can actually go into the layer command and you can adjust the transparency of that. So we'll go to the phone base and I could set that transparency to like, here, let me bring that over here so you can see. I'm gonna set that to like 75% transparency. So that means now you can kind of see through it, okay? And you can see how it lets you see through it when you like here, go here, you can kind of see the objects through it, okay? And so that's kind of a cool feature you can kind of do when you're building like a house or something like that. You can actually see into your house, or you can make windows that are actually transparent. You can actually see through those as well. Okay. All right. Well, guys, this was fun. I'm going to stop the recording, and then if we want to talk a little bit, we can.